Hello and welcome to this special edition of your favorite show, Face to Face. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce to you a legend, a man who has built bridge between Eastern and Western world through his music. He has won various prestigious awards. He is none other than Pandit Ravi Shankar. Thank you so much for taking out time for us over here. You're here in New Jersey. We feel so much privileged to talk to you. It's been so many decades that you've been in the classical field, in the classical music field. How has been this journey so far? When you look behind and see all those years when you started, how do you foresee this growth in yourself?
Well, it was very different in the beginning because I had to face audience who really knew nothing about our music. But with my patience, within few years I started not only playing the sitar but talking also about the music in very simple words, but explaining the rudiments of our music, and that helped. And gradually the audience started growing more, and it was wonderful to see other artists coming then after, and today it's fantastic. Not only great masters, but you see a lot of young generation musicians coming and performing, and they all have some sort of audience who appreciate them.
Gee. Art and culture was within your family from always. It was always in your family, and you started your journey with your elder brother Uday Shankar. You were introduced to the stage where you were performing in ballets and all that, but you picked up playing sitar.
Right.
How did that happen? Yes. So why didn't you stick to dancing?
Yeah, from dancing, and I was, because being in the troupe, there was all the instruments, and I was without any training. I was fiddling with all these instruments, and that's what happened. I was continuing as a dancer and musician both till I was 15 when Baba Aladdin, who became my guru, he joined the troupe of my brother for just 1 year and only traveling in Europe, all over Europe. That's when I really changed my mind gradually from when he started teaching me. And after 1 year he went back to India, and it took me another couple of years to decide, because I was getting better known as a dancer then. So I could have easily taken that career, following footsteps of my brother Uday. But somehow something happened, and I decided to take up music, and I left my brother's troupe and went to Baba. And for about 7 years I was with him.
Gee.
Absolutely in the old Gurukul system.
Now, but what fascinated you to play sitar only? I mean, when you say that there were so many other instruments.
Yes, exactly. I was playing all the instruments, Indian instruments, string instrument, board instrument, flute, banging the tabla. But sitar was something which also my guru suggested, because he found that I was best out of all the other instruments on sitar.
Now, your transition from dancing to playing an instrument, did any of those dancing things help you to have a good grip or learning sitar?
Absolutely, because you know the word chand जो है वो नृत्य का प्रधान अंग है.
जी जी.
So I mean it helps. This whole dancing aspect is hidden in music also, and they become one, and that was very helpful for me, because from my earliest beginning I had both of it, including stage, including presentation. My brother was master of presentation, which he really learned from West. And when I say West, not the dance technique or anything, just the way, lighting, stage setting, how to sit, how to perform, where to look, and also the public's reaction. Unfortunately, that time we didn't have the ideal public in India. They were not trained in concert-going habits like in the West. So we had a lot of problem, people not coming on time, nothing starting on time, people walking whenever they want, they go out, they talk, they munch peanuts and all lots of mannerism that was unfortunately there. Gradually it took many years, and now of course that also in Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, all these places are fantastic.
Sure. पंडित जी, तालीम आप जैसे आपकी लीग के जितने भी दिग्गज कलाकार हैं, बड़े बड़े जो कलाकार हैं, उन सब ने, किसी ने बनारस घराने से प्राप्त करी, किसी ने ग्वालियर घराने से प्राप्त करी। इन छोटे छोटे शहरों के घरानों से शिक्षा तालीम प्राप्त करने के बाद ऐसा क्यों हुआ कि ये चीज वहां पर ज्यादा नहीं करी गई? आज जैसे आपने ज्यादा नाम यूएसए में कमाया या और देशों में जाकर के कमाया, तो बनारस में या वहां की ये खास चीज बनकर के क्यों नहीं रह गई?
उसके कारण यह है कि जितने कलाकार लोग थे पहले उनका आश्रय देने वाले थे राजे, महाराजा, बड़े बड़े रईस, तालुकेदार, जमींदार, एरिस्टोक्रेट्स
जी।
and being in that particular city, ग्वालियर हो, आगरा हो, जयपुर हो, उसी नाम में घराना, बनारस was an exception as a city. But ज़्यादातर वहाँ के जितने कलाकार थे वो लोग बाहर जाके नाम करते थे, घर में अपना ज़्यादा इनकम नहीं होता था।
जी जी।
तो इसका ये एक वजह वो है, और दूसरा ये है कि बाकी जितने नरेश महाराजा लोग थे वो तो अब नहीं हैं, तो इसीलिए जितने अच्छे अच्छे कलाकार वहाँ रहते थे सब बड़े शहरों में आ गए आफ्टर द इंडिपेंडेंस स्पेशली, एंड दे वे मोर डिपेंडेंट ऑन ऑल इंडिया रेडियो एंड पब्लिक परफॉर्मेंसेस, म्यूजिक सर्कल्स, ना तो कोई किसी का घर में प्रोग्राम, सो इट चेंज द होल सिस्टम and it took quite long time to settle down, and now of course it is very well settled in the sense that everyone performs in concert halls in all these large.
Sure. क्या अपने भाई साहब, बड़े भाई साहब उदय शंकर से प्रेरित होकर के आपने शास्त्रीय संगीत को विदेशों में ले जाने का सोचा, या फिर जैसा कि आपने कहा कि उस वक्त इतनी आमदनी नहीं थी और ये था कि जरिया नहीं था कि आप अपनी कला को किस तरह से, क्योंकि आफ्टर ऑल खाना पीना, रोजी रोटी और तमाम खर्चों को पूरा करने के लिए वो एक वजह थी कि आप अपने संगीत को लेकर के, अपने वाद्य को लेकर के विदेश में आए?
एक्चुअली हमारा वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं था, क्योंकि हम जब अपना करियर शुरू किए गुरु के कृपा से, भगवान के आशीर्वाद, शुरू से ही हमारा बहुत ही सक्सेसफुल रहा
जी।
तो एज फार एज अर्निंग वाज कंसर्न देयर वाज नो प्रॉब्लम, बट बचपन से अपने भाई साहब के साथ रह के सारा विदेश में, अमेरिका, यूरोप छान डाला बिल्कुल
जी।
और इतना सुना, और वहाँ आई रिमेम्बर दैट दे कुड नॉट अंडरस्टैंड एनीथिंग अबाउट इंडियन म्यूजिक, एंड सो आई फेल्ट दैट अर्ज माई सेल्फ टू गो, और उस समय आई वॉज द ओनली पर्सन who could communicate and explain about our music, because I could tell them in their own language, compare with the Western music, or where it is different from jazz and things like that, which I took the responsibility of doing it myself, and by God's grace I'm glad I did it, because that was very much needed.
आपने ऑल इंडिया रेडियो का बीच में जिक्र किया, यू हैड हेडेड ऑल इंडिया रेडियो इन वाद्य वृंदा. टेल अस अबाउट हाउ वाज इट इन दोज डेज वर्किंग फॉर ऑल इंडिया रेडियो?
उस वक्त बड़ा अच्छा था, क्योंकि देयर वाज नो कंपटीशन विद टेलीविजन. अभी तो ऑल इंडिया रेडियो समझ में नहीं आता कहाँ गया, और इतने अलग अलग रेडियो स्टेशन हो गया, glued more to television. But that time All India Radio did the greatest service, I think, for anything culture wise, classical music, even Sugam Sangeet, जो कि बाद में अपना बॉलीवुड तो नहीं था, बॉम्बे फिल्म्स वगैरह, कलकत्ता फिल्म्स, मद्रास फिल्म को प्रोत्साहित किया.
Now, coming to the Western world, you had shared some great moments with the great composers over here, great music composers and singing legends, performers over here. But coming up with a very Indian instrument in your hand, sitar, and sharing up your notes with them, how was that experience? How could you break that jinx? How was the experience like? Tell us about that those days. How did it happen?
Well, I had no problem, Again, my childhood experiences in West helped very much. And my first big experience was Ihudi Menuhin, who became such a good friend and like my brother absolutely. And it was such a joy because he was so interested, being a great musician like him, but he was very much interested in our music. So it just happened, we thought of performing together. But then there came a question. I did not want to play Western music because I knew I didn't have enough knowledge of it. So I composed within Raga and Tala frame compositions which he had to learn. He ultimately wrote down, and I taught him all the nuances and details of our, because touches are different.
Sure.
And he was so great musician, but he was like a child, without any ego problem or anything. So we had a great time, and we made almost 3 records actually. And then also I performed with this Jean-Pierre Rampal from France, the greatest flautist. And same way I wrote pieces for him, he played. And then I did these sitar concerto with symphony orchestra. Number 1 was in 1970 with Andre Previn conducting London Symphony Orchestra, and the second was 1980 Zubin Mehta conducting the New York Philharmonic. So all this experience, and later on of course I wrote for Rostropovich, the great cellist who is world's greatest, and also Philip Glass. We did something together, but never played together. I've never jammed with any jazz artist or any classical artist, because that seems to be the fashion nowadays, fusion and jamming with 2-3 musicians sitting and doing, which is interesting, but I never felt like doing that.
We shall continue our talk with the legendary sitar player Pandit Ravi Shankar, but first let's take a short break. Welcome back. You're watching the special edition of your favorite show, Face to Face, and we are talking to legendary sitar player Pandit Ravi Shankar. Panditji, once again, welcome. When you take this responsibility of sharing our music to the Western world, how was it taken up with various other artists of your league at that time?
Well, I really don't feel like saying it, but since you asked, I have to tell the truth. Because, as I said earlier, I took the responsibility myself of propagating our music, and the truth is that I was the only person at that time who could really communicate. I won't say the only player. There were great players, great singers everywhere in India. But because I became so successful, I had to go through very difficult time, because mostly all the musicians, they started criticizing me and their followers, and for at least 6 to 10 years I went through that. And unfortunately I had to go through that.
Tell us what kind of criticism were they?
कि वो जाके क्या बजाते हैं, बीटल का बाज बजाते हैं, जैज बजाते हैं, he has Americanized his music, पॉप म्यूजिक बजाते हैं, बीटल के साथ बजाते हैं, और क्या क्या सब बोलने लगे, and सत्यानाश कर दिया शास्त्रीय संगीत का. It was mostly their version, and gradually that died down, because I was not, I was hurt of course, but I got used to it. And the irony of the whole thing, many of these people, they have now, today, if you ask them, major part of the year they are now touring all over America,
Sure.
in Europe, India, Australia, Japan, and many of them have migrated. जो हमको criticize करते हैं वो तो वहाँ ही बजाते हैं, यहाँ आके क्यों नहीं बजाते हैं? मतलब as if I know I'm not good enough for my own country. But many of them have settled down here. Many have come very often, which is wonderful to see that, you know.
हमारी बातचीत के दौरान आपने बीटल्स का जिक्र किया, मशहूर बैंड सबको जानता है. You shared a special relationship with George Harrison. You taught him sitar.
See, I met all the Beatles. I knew all of them. We are very friendly. But actually, हमारा relationship जो था वो George के साथ. And he was like my son. And I loved him, and we had a very special relationship. And it had nothing to do with the pop music or nothing. He was a seeker for Indian philosophy. Vedic culture का भक्त था. He started, of course, by hunting दुनिया भर का religious, ritualistic. Then he really became very, very profoundly follower of Vedic culture. And I actually gave him a book called Autobiography of an Yogi by Yogananda. And that started it. You know, his interest of the ancient India philosophy and all that. And music, he learned from me sitar for initially first year में काफ़ी मेहनत किया सीखा, लेकिन he was so busy touring with his own group and all that. He ultimately could not give time. Though he was so talented. I mean, he would have been a wonderful sitar player. Really.
Together, I believe two of you came up with the two albums.
No composition, production.
Productions,
he produced two records in those days. One was Festival of India, and one was Shankar Family and Friends. And we toured once together. First half, about 45 minutes, it was me. I brought all these musicians like Hari Prasad Chaurasia, Shiv Kumar Sharma, Sultan Khan, Alara Khan was with me already. And I had this group. For the first 45 minutes, I did many compositions along with my sitar also. And after the interval, it was George's group.
Sure.
We toured all over United States and Canada. And that was the only nearest thing that we musically did, but not together again, you know. And later on he produced two more records. One was on my 75th birthday celebration record, and 4 CDs altogether, all my compositions for last 45 years, and some of performances. And also he produced that wonderful thing which I cherish very much, Chants of India.
Wow. पंडित जी, हमारी बातचीत में दूसरी पीढ़ी का जिक्र आया और आपके डिसाइपल्स का जिक्र आया, और आपके सर्वोत्तम डिसाइपल्स में आपकी सुपुत्री अनुष्का का नाम आता है. अनुष्का को आप जिस कदर प्यार से सिखा रहे हैं, और उसका जिस तरीके से आपके डुएट, आप दोनों के जुगलबंदी कॉन्सर्ट्स होते हैं, किस तरह से देखते हैं आप अनुष्का को आपका वंशज अच्छे तरीके से आगे ले जाते हुए?
अनुष्का इतना एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी टैलेंट है उसमें कि मैं क्या बताऊं. बहुत वर्सेटाइल, सिर्फ म्यूजिक नहीं, जो कुछ भी सब्जेक्ट में आप कहिए. तो बचपन से उसका ये लक्षण देखा, और मैं वेट कर रहा था कि उसका अपना इंटरेस्ट कब आएगा. लेकिन हमारे वाइफ सुकन्या, उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि सितार शुरू करवाएं. तो जब वो करीब 9 साल की थी तब से शुरू करा. एंड शुरू कराने के बाद मैं देखा, माय गॉड, तो भयंकर टैलेंटेड बच्ची है. तो उस समय ये जो एक अजीब एक मिश्रित भावना है, एज ए फादर and as a guru, it was very difficult to adjust it. You know, it took me few years, and then it was all right. I could adjust it. You know, this relationship, which was very. Actually, here I would like to say, unfortunately, my son, Shubho.
जी.
He died in '92, and he was very good sitar player, and
We've heard about him, yeah.
all that. Lekin, unfortunately, he passed away. So you know, it was this double feeling of my child plus such a talented student, and luckily we have gone through all the hurdles of her teenager period, everything, and mostly we were out of India, England and states, California. So education वगैरह सब बाहर ही हुई, and then from 75 on my 75th birthday उसका पहला
कॉन्सर्ट आप लोगों ने एक साथ में किया.
she was hardly 13 then, and तब से she has been, you know, performing along with me, and then now she is independently giving performances.
Sure.
Everywhere.
Your other daughter, Nora Jones, your other daughter, Nora.
उसको हम गीतू बोलते हैं, गीताली नाम दिया था मैं उसका बर्थ सर्टिफिकेट में. That is a miracle. अब हम क्या उसके लिए क्या कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि वो तो अपना हिंदुस्तानी संगीत नहीं गाती
जी.
बिल्कुल प्योर अमेरिकन. She has been born here, brought up here, and unfortunately चंद वर्ष हम अलग हो गए थे, उनको माँ उनको लेके अलग हो गई थी, तो I didn't meet her for almost 8 years. लेकिन since last about 6 years we are meeting quite regularly, and she comes, spends time with me. I love her very much, and वो भी अपनी, she's, what can I say, miracle.
I think she has, by winning Grammys, like father, like daughter, you know, it's in the family, you know, winning up awards and performing the best in across the world. क्या आप भविष्य में देखते हैं दोनों बहनों को, अनुष्का को, जिस कदर आपने कई और म्यूजिशियंस और विदेशी म्यूजिशियंस के साथ परफॉर्म किया?
सवाल आता है कि ये दोनों में तो पहले तो इतना, there's so much affection and love, they are so, when I see them together it's something unique experience. Anyway, as far as doing music together, that depends, I don't know, it depends on them. I am not going to, ये इसके पीछे commercialism आता है. Everybody wants things to happen because they think it will be a get commercial thing and experiment. It comes in that fusion line and all that sort of thing, which I am not very interested in. But if they are interested and they feel like doing, they are at liberty, they may do something. कभी कभी वो लोग बैठ जाते हैं पियानो लेके ये गाते हैं अपने मस्ती में. So that's a different thing. It depends on them.
Thank you so much for taking out time for us and talking to us in face to face. Thank you so much.
Thank you.